I woke up with the worst abdominal pain of my life. Pain that like the only thing you can think is you're dying.
That very first signs of like fatigue and energy loss didn't really clock with me as anything wrong besides potentially stress related or something health related, but not cancer. My name is Aleeshia. I am quite passionate about traveling. I've been traveling my whole life. I did a trip to Istanbul and then Athens at the end of May. It was also a bit of a difficult trip because I wasn't feeling great. I didn't have a lot of energy, and I really thought it was just work related. It was a busy period in work, and I just kind of thought I maybe needed a little bit more sleep. And then when I got home from that trip, I really rapidly deteriorated. The day after I landed from Athens, I had this pain in my left ear. And I thought I picked up maybe a little ear infection or like a sinus infection that had traveled to my ear or something. So I went to a walk-in clinic near my house, and the doctor there did an exam, and she said it was definitely severely inflamed. And I remember her saying that the lymph nodes in the area weren't swollen, but that the nerves were swollen. So she's like, it's probably an infection. Gave me some antibiotics. 5 days into taking these antibiotics, I felt so much worse. She switched the antibiotics there, but then given that I had this fever and the stomach aches and all this stuff, she had done like an abdominal exam as well and chalked up the pain in my abdominal area to potentially a bit of like just gastrointestinal inflammation because of the antibiotics. I was very bloated all the time, and eating had become difficult. I would get full almost instantly, and I'd kind of feel nauseous after I ate. Then my shoulder started acting up. I had this like severe, very deep pain in like the point of my shoulder right here. And it felt like it was coming from inside my bone, and stretching and exercising it, and nothing was helping it. I went to the emergency, and they treated it like it was a muscular situation. And they gave me an injection of a really high dose painkiller. The other thing is that my period was at that point 2 weeks late. My sister was in Milan on a layover. My mom had been here. She had come for Easter. So the three of us went on like a little day trip. I started bleeding, and I thought it was my period. So I thought it had finally arrived like a month late, and that sort of resolved the potential pregnancy situation. I don't even really know how to describe the pain, just kind of like I was not in my body. Like the pain was so overwhelming. It felt like I had zero control over my body. Got out of bed, I went to the bathroom, and I passed out. I like fainted in the bathroom. I just remember my mom screaming, call 911, call 911. So they rushed me to hospital. With the ultrasound, they started saying, well, there's a lot of fluid in your abdomen. That's the concerning bit. And they said, there looks like there's a shadow over one of your ovaries. And they were like, this could be an ectopic pregnancy. And they're like, we're going to have to go in for emergency surgery. And I woke up, I think it was around 7 hours later, in intensive care. And then that's when the doctor said to me, we had to remove your left ovary. It had died. It was not an ectopic pregnancy. Instead, we found a 15 centimeter mass. I have sent it for a full histology. I think it might be lymphoma, but I don't know which kind. I don't really think the cancer bit sort of stuck. I just remember being most concerned about my fertility. And I think the only thing I asked him was, will I still be able to have babies? Like I only have one ovary left. And he goes, we can't say that for sure right now.
What's happening?
You're
You're
going
home! I'm going home! Yay!
And I went home that week, and it was like the pain was through the roof again. I was throwing up everything I tried to eat. I couldn't go to the bathroom, so I felt constantly like I needed to pee, but I wouldn't. I would go back into hospital. I was really sick. Like I needed my husband to push me in a wheelchair into the hospital, and I go into the gyno's office, and next to her was my hemo-oncologist. He was there to tell me that the histology report had come back and that they definitively knew that it was a large B-cell aggressive lymphoma. So I spent another week in hospital with all of these tests happening. I was very sick, so they were like wheeling me in on beds into all of these different rooms in the hospital to get the CT, get the PET, get all of these things. And so by like 5-6 days after that, I had the Burkitt's lymphoma diagnosis. Ultimately, the staging was because they found masses all over my abdomen, both above and below my diaphragm. So that made it stage 3. And then they also found it in my bone marrow. Now we know, and that means that we can do something about it. At the same time, obviously completely like just shocked and numb and scared and bowled over by the fact that I was 33 years old and just got a cancer diagnosis. And then a very small part of me was hyper curious because I had never heard about Burkitt's lymphoma. I started chemo immediately the next day afterwards. And each round I also did an immunotherapy infusion. He explained that it's administered in 4 cycles, and that given my age and the staging of my cancer, we were going to treat it hyper aggressively. Each round of chemotherapy required me to be in hospital for about a month to manage all of the infections. I actually developed a fever my first night in the hospital and ended up with some bacterial infection, and it turned out that it was the pick that was in my arm. I ended up getting a catheter in my neck every single time. I still have the 2 little scars here. I call them my vampire bites. I got a really bad infection every single round. The hardest moment, I think, was in my first round of chemo. I had like a tantrum. I just wanted out of the hospital, and I didn't want any needles in me. I didn't want anything anymore. I was like, I want all of this stuff out of my body right now. I want to go home. I don't care about any of this. This is not what I signed up for. That like, I don't know what the universe has against me. Instead of feeling like safe and as if I was being taken care of in the hospital, I felt almost like I was a prisoner. The side effects were intense and debilitating. The losing my hair felt almost like nothing compared to everything else, like the nausea, the mucositis, and I would get these really bad sores all along my tongue and like down my esophagus. And so I couldn't eat, I couldn't swallow, I couldn't talk. The higher risk things with side effects with this chemo protocol being so aggressive are potential infertility and damage to other organs. It was not an easy thing to hear. It's probably the thing that I asked about the most through every single round of chemo. I was like, do we know? Is there any way we can know?
Finito! È finito! È finito!
As of right now, I'm still in menopause. It wasn't medically induced, but they did give me a medication that stopped the production of estrogen as a way to protect my ovaries. My darkest moments through the whole treatment, and even now to this day, are when I kind of really stopped to think about the fact that my dream of becoming a mother might not come true in the way that I had imagined it before getting ill. Some days I'm really positive where I'm like, it's, if it is a permanent menopause, then there are other options available to me, and my husband and I can start getting ourselves informed about adoption or any other options. And other days I'm just like, hopefully I'll be able to get pregnant one day and it will happen exactly like I intended it to. I feel like to a certain extent, my quality of life has been decreased because of this. I now, I'm going to have super free, like for the next 5 years, foreseeably, there'll be regular checkups and scans and this kind of stuff, all of which bring a small set of anxiety that I am still working with a psychologist to kind of manage that. At the same time, I also feel like I came back to myself. I think in the years leading up to the diagnosis, not fully being true to my a little bit spontaneous nature. So yeah, the coming out of this, I do feel like I've been able to kind of reconnect with that version of myself and be reminded about, you don't have to have a plan. You don't need to necessarily know where you're going in life. As long as you stay open to what comes your way and are joyful about it, then you'll probably get where you want to go in the end. So that's been nice. It's been kind of liberating to let go of sort of certain status quo norms that I felt like I needed to have to be successful in life. So I was given the no evidence of disease or complete remission diagnosis at the end of November of last year. I'm feeling a lot more like myself. I have a lot more energy. I mentally feel a lot more stable. I think when my doctor told me, I took it for granted. I was like, well, of course, like we just did all of that horrible therapy. So this was the only outcome available, right? I was convinced from the very beginning that I was going to get there. So I think when he told me, I was like, fantastic. Now, a couple of months out is when I'm kind of starting to feel a little bit like, oh, well, what if it were to come back? Or what does this actually mean? Like, I am now a cancer survivor, and I will be for the rest of my life. And so I think I'm still trying to figure out what that means. One of the things that was hugely, hugely helpful for me was that from the moment we had the treatment plan, despite it being difficult, despite feeling horrible, despite all of the fear about everything going on, I never once stopped believing in its ability to heal me. Trust yourself, and trust in your body's ability to get better.
If you were moved by this story, we think you'll also enjoy this one, which we've queued up for you right here on your screen. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the patient story right here so that you can be notified about all of our recent uploads. Thank you for watching. You are not alone.